I know, it's yeah. So they move
Call to order this May meeting of the North Manchester Town Council. We certainly appreciate a full house this evening. Glad that you're all here. And we need to approve the agenda.
I'd like to add an item to the agenda. This is time critical for some of the summer festivities that we have. So a couple of street closures that we have from NDOT permitting. So we'd like to add that to item number 6.
Move approval to add an additional item to the agenda.
Second. Moved and seconded to add item number 6, the Manchester Live request to close Main Street. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Thank you. We have 2 opportunities. We have 4 sets of minutes to consider this evening. Hopefully you've had an opportunity to review those minutes, and whenever someone is ready, I'll accept a motion to approve all of them.
Move approval. Second.
Moved and seconded to approve minutes, the 4 sets of minutes that we have before us. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Thank you. We have 2 opportunities on our agenda for any visitors to make any comments to council that they would like to, other than those who are already on the agenda to make comments to council. We ask that you approach the podium, keep your remarks to 2 minutes. Is there anyone who would like to address council at this point? None appearing, we'll move on. We have a public hearing scheduled this evening for the downtown revitalization plan. This is the 2nd public hearing for this particular issue. I will now open the public hearing and turn it over to Adam.
We have Mike Klein-Peter with Klein-Peter Consulting that's helped us secure this grant from Okra. I'll let him kind of explain the grant opportunity, kind of the steps and process and why we're having this 2nd public hearing, and then we'll close that and I can fill in as far as any details about the actual plan itself. And additionally, we do not have Jack Benedict here tonight representing MPM. He had some other obligations, but he will be here in June to go in more in depth about the plan itself. But this plan has been available to the public for well over 30 days and probably 60 days. So it's been made advertised into the public. So Mike, if you'd like to talk about your name.
Sure. Good evening, public and council. Mike Kleinpeter Consulting Group, were the grant administrators that submitted the grant to the Indiana Office of Community and Rural Affairs. This is our second public hearing. Since this is an Okra Community Development Block Grant, we're required to do 2 public hearings. Tonight is the second and final public hearing regarding the Downtown Revitalization Planning Grant. Our legal notice was advertised on April 23rd in the North Manchester News Journal. The purpose of the hearing is to discuss the town's plan. The town did receive $40,000 in grant funds for this plan, and they did contribute a local match of $5,995. The town went through an RFQ process about a year ago. That's a request for qualifications. We asked any firm that was interested in the state to submit their criteria for this plan. 4 firms responded: HWC, MKM Architecture and Design, Taylor Seifert Williams, and Architecture Trio. There was a committee that interviewed those firms and ultimately selected MKM Architecture. They put together a full plan. You've got some versions of the recommended options and some action steps in front of you today. With that, I'll let Adam talk a little bit more about the committee that worked on this plan, some of those things, and I think Alex has a couple comments he'd like to make as well.
So with this, thank you, Mike. With this plan, we had to engage local stakeholders from around the community, but we had probably a majority of that were business or property owners downtown, obviously working and planning around their properties. That was important to hear their voices. So we had met 3 times total, and we had a kind of review after we had the initial draft before we kind of adopted internally. A lot of the plan that we have comes from what was already previously done with the town's comprehensive plan. And then in addition to the Imagine 185 planning that we did as well. So we already know that the time the community had a whole lot of stakeholder engagement, surveys, participation, workshops. So some of what we did, we kind of skipped that step for the most part and kind of got to what we know, what the community already has said and spoke about, with a couple of different wrinkles on some areas. Additionally, in there, we talked about the River Commons, which we're currently working on as we speak. A lot of the riverfront development on the backside of downtown. So I will let at the next meeting, Zach Benedict go into more detail about it. But the committee we had formed started in early 2024, so it was about a whole year's worth of kind of meetings and or the consultant working on the plans and gathering feedback before we kind of got the final product in January of this year, and Okra reviewed that plan. So that's where to come.
Okra's reviewed it, they've approved it, it meets all their minimum criteria requirements, and so I think we can open it. Alex, do you want to talk before public comment?
No, I think Adam did great. When we started the process, it was just the Office of Community Affairs and other agencies come out with different funding opportunities, and a requirement of that is that you have one of these up to date, as Adam mentioned. So that's kind of why we started down the process of updating it. But no, nothing else.
And correct me if I'm wrong, the plan, once approved, is good for 5 years.
Correct.
So we have a 5-year period to where we can seek additional funding using this plan as
Correct.
a catalyst.
Any comments? It's a public hearing. Any comments regarding the downtown revitalization plan? None appearing, we'll close the public hearing. Thank you, Mike. Under unfinished business, consideration of the Manchester Early Learning Center funding request. Adam?
The April meeting, which I was not there, but I read the minutes and I know what happened. So Manchester Early Learning Center, and there's a couple representatives in the back there, came and requested $25,000 to support their operations and efforts that they do. This was a reduction from previous years. So that was good to see. And it sounds like things are going well. Their capacity for students is increased like they said that they would. So this $25,000 request is up for consideration at this time by the council.
Entertain a motion?
So move.
Second. Moved and seconded to approve the Manchester Early Learning Center funding request. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Thank you. Keep on doing good work, folks. Thank you. Under new business, the follow-up to the public hearing, the downtown revitalization resolution, resolution number 5. Will someone please read it?
Resolution number 5, 2025, a local resolution approving the downtown revitalization plan. Whereas the town of North Manchester had identified adequate reason to analyze a downtown revitalization plan. And whereas the town of North Manchester has hired MKM Architecture and Design to define and describe the issues, advise us of our options, and make recommendations to address this issue in the near future. And whereas the town of North Manchester has received federal community development block grant dollars from the Indiana Office of Community and Rural Affairs to fund this study and has contributed $4,495 as local match for this project. And whereas the town of North Manchester has reviewed the process and completed study thoroughly and is satisfied with the services performed, information contained therein, and the methodology applied. Whereas the town of North Manchester has received copies of this document for our records and will keep on file in the town offices for future reference. Now therefore be it resolved by the town council of the town of North Manchester that the final document is hereby approved, contingent upon comments and approval received from the Office of Community and Rural Affairs. The town of North Manchester will fully consider all comments and feedback received from the Indiana Office of Community and Rural Affairs and will direct its consultant to provide amended copies of this plan reflecting all said comments. Adopted this day by the town council.
Move approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the downtown revitalization resolution, resolution number 5, 2025. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Thank you. Next, the annual tax abatement certifications. Carrie?
Annually, we receive CF1s from the entities in town that get tax abatements. This is part of their tax forms that they must submit to the county. We appreciate these businesses being in town and making these kind of investments, and this tax abatement is a way to reduce that tax burden on them for those investments. So I believe we're starting with Mr. Sands. Let's see. Nope, we're starting with Ben Gleason. If you'd like to come and give us a little synopsis on how things are going.
Absolutely. I'm Benjamin Gleason, with Precision Medical. Been there 4 years now, so this is the fourth time coming for you guys. Some of you had a tour, and I'd like to have you back. Some of the enhancements that we've done, guys, we've done medical instruments and med device out of Warsaw, Manchester, Rome City, and Albion. We just recently opened up Precision Medical Coatings, which is incubated in our shop in there. Eventually move out to its own building as it kicks off. I'm proud to announce one of our largest customers, one of the largest spine companies in North America, has approved us for coating of their instruments. So that's pretty exciting. And I talked about the DLC diamond carbon coating in the past. It's a physical vapor deposition. It's large chambers. It's target host gases inside the chamber, and it's bonded to a metallic inside the chamber. So it's really, really exciting. And that's opened up other opportunities for other revenue streams as well with that coating, and that being on specification for coatings for that major supplier. Then when they purchase stuff from other companies, it can be coated by us as well. So it'll open up some additional revenue streams as well. So pretty excited about that. Largest customer, we had a visit last week, and they informed us that they were dropping some of their major suppliers, and that we were going to be picking up the slack. So that's a good thing. So we'll see that immediately. 2 regulars already, so quite a bit. Pretty excited about that. And proud to announce that we got a Purdue University students going to be graduating here in a couple of weeks. And he's a mechanical engineer, and he'll be working in our engineering department. So he's been working there for about 4 years as he worked his way through school. So kind of reminds me of myself working my way through college while I was employed by a company, and it's pretty exciting. And think about hitting the ground running, not only with a college degree, but 4 years work experience and in manufacturing. So it's pretty awesome. So really excited about that. Q4 and Q3 of this year. We had a little bit of a downturn, in medical across the country. It's really started to uptick. We're really excited. So I appreciate you guys, consideration for furthering our, abatement, and, we'll continue to make, North Manchester happy. Rather than
I was gonna say thank you for the baseball hat, yes.
that came from Rocky.
Okay.
I have the black one too, or the white one as well. Yeah.
Blatant.
Any questions? Thank you. We're going to consider all of them at the same time.
Absolutely. Right on.
Thank you,
Thank
Ben.
you. Thanks, Bill.
And HF Group.
Hello, my name is John Gunn, CFO of HF Group. We have two separate abatements that we have with the town. One is for two of our toner-based refill presses, printing presses. 2024 was the first full year in production for those two presses. They replaced a couple outdated older machines. With these new presses, we've been able to increase our efficiency, improve our quality, and saving money on our consumables such as toner, paper, and items like that. This biggest reason is because of the breakdown time. We'll have to do as many reprints and redos of orders. For these two presses, we've figured that we've increased our order turn times by about 10 to 12 days, which is a big help for us and for our customers. Second abatement that we had was for another type of press. It's an inkjet press. It's a new press for us, new type of press for us. We've always been a toner-based printing press company. This is inkjet, so it's new. It's better quality. It's higher resolution. I think I sent you guys in a little video that we did with Canon to show how this printer prints compared to toner-based printing machines. The first quarter 2024 was a little slow with that machine. Basically, it's a learning curve on how to operate it. Having our current software that we have to integrate with the new print, with the presses software, took a little time to get that up and going, and just the overall setup. So the first 3 months was not as great as we'd like, but the last 9 months of the year or last year, it did very well for us. On those types of items, it increased our production time as well, or shortened our production time. And it just overall efficiency and better quality. We have gotten a few new customers, new business, in the inkjet business, printing business. Small orders, kind of trial orders they give us say, hey, here's a couple 25, 50 of this title, print these, see how they do. And if the quality is there, price is there, the price is right, then we'll do additional orders in the future. Over the past year and a half, our sales manager and owner, Jim Heckman, have been attending more trade shows that are more inkjet specific trade shows. So getting out there with publishers and individuals, companies that produce inkjet items. So that's been very positive for us. We got a lot of good feedback. In the end, it comes down to price. So we're a small company compared to the larger, like Amazon-based type companies. Amazon has like 50 of these Canon presses, and we have one. So they can, obviously the turn time, production time for them to do it is a lot less. So we're kind of getting a penny more when it comes down to some of those projects. But we're kind of more looking at the small publishers that do 25 to 100 books at a time. Business, like I said, business is going, but it's slow. We kind of going into this, knew that our first couple of years would be slow because this is new for us on this inkjet. So we're it's ramping, it's getting better. We're looking at probably the next next year and a half, to be where we would like to be when we first started looking at purchasing this machine. Overall, these 3 presses have been great for our business. It's increased our efficiency, it's increased quality, it's given us the ability in other areas of our company to hire new employees, because these presses can produce the work a lot quicker and get it done to a point where it needs to be into the bindery part of it. In the last year, I guess you could say we net gained 5 full-time employees. It's kind of a hard job to keep, but we've retained 5 full-time employees in the past year. The inkjet business, we're also considering probably the 3rd quarter of this year of hiring an outside salesperson that will be directly selling inkjet type jobs. Not sure if that person will be local. More likely they will probably come from another state, but they will be an employee of HF Group here in Indiana. Once again, thank you. Appreciate it. Any questions? I'd be happy to answer.
I thought the video was pretty good.
Yeah.
I liked it.
Very helpful.
Yep. You're welcome.
Are you still doing textbooks?
Here in Indiana, very few, but we do. Our Nebraska facility does a ton. COVID kind of hurt that business a little bit. Obviously, a lot more schools are going to MacBooks, Chromebooks, that type of thing, so the books are not in class. So that's really hurt, but it seems like the Midwestern small schools out in the Midwest are still using textbooks. So that's why our Nebraska plant is doing a lot more than we do. We don't do near the quality that they used to. Our North Carolina plant doesn't do very much either. So it's more of a Midwest, a West Coast, Southwest location. So, but yes, we still do.
You still have the Library of Congress?
Yes. Yep. That's our largest customer.
Is that done here?
Yes. Yep. Yep. We have a route that goes, I think, twice a month. It goes there, drops off, picks up, kind of back and forth. I think it's twice a month we have a route that goes to the Library of Congress. So hopefully, barring any government shutdowns, shouldn't have any issues with that. And they're pretty steady. In March of this year, we just did another 5-year contract with them. So
good.
We'll be doing their work for at least another 5 years.
One of your claims to fame.
Yep. Yep.
And that'll take you past your 100th anniversary.
That's what I heard. Way past my time there, for sure.
It's an impressive number.
Yep.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Next.
S&T Investments.
Good evening. My name is Joe Vance, and we came before you last year asking for a tax abatement and received that. What we didn't realize at that time, which we'd like to get corrected tonight, was that the county did not reassess last year our building. They're doing it this year, which will be for payable next year. So we kind of need to get that straightened out so everything matches up. That's what we discovered. And as we worked with Kerry and Wabash County and some changes there and stuff. So we need to get that squared away so that everything matches up and we can move forward with it. Things are going great for us. Building's been full for over a year. Originally, we had a couple of small businesses and the rest of it's going to be just warehouse space. We've got one of our tenants that is now doing light manufacturing. They started out with one part-time person there doing stuff. Now there's, I don't know, I look on the cameras, there's 8 or 10 cars sitting there and they've got a bunch of employees there. So I know that comes back and helps out here. And two of our tenants are wanting more space, which makes us look at our options. And we've still got outdoor storage space, talked with Adam about possibilities there. So we've got about 2 acres of secure outdoor storage that is available if you know anybody, send them our way. So, but things are going well. We're happy with what we've done. And so.
Good. Any questions? Thank you very much.
Hey, thank you.
Strauss.
Thank you. Hello. I'm Alex Nollenberg. For those of you that don't know me, I am the COO at Strauss and have the privilege of looking over that plant. When you gave us a tax abatement a few years ago, an incredible amount has changed since then, including the name of the company. We were Strauss Veal Feeds. We are now Strauss Dairy Ingredients. And why that is kind of goes back to the plant that was built. So the tax abatement was to support the construction of a plant expansion. It's a piece of equipment called a spray dryer. The idea of a spray dryer is not horribly unique. What is unique is the product it makes, which is called protein encapsulated fat. It's a very important ingredient for milk replacer. Essentially, picture powdered baby formula just for baby calves instead of baby humans. There are only 4 plants in the country, including ours, that make this ingredient. Very specialized, but everyone in the industry knows everyone who makes it. And I'm biased, but per our customers, they've all tried everyone's. Consistently, we get compliment and say our quality is the best. So I take pride in that, but I'm biased. I would say that even if they didn't say it. But some very relevant developments in the last year, and why I especially wanted to give the background of the abatement and us building that plant. After nearly 40 years, in the middle of last year, we stopped making our liquid feed, which we've done for decades. And that was an emotional decision. It was a very easy business decision. The veal market has just continued to go down and down, and I could give a 2-hour presentation about that, but I won't. But thankfully, the new plant was here. Extremely minimal staffing effect on this transition of just the spray dryer being our only output from that plant. And in fact, now for over a year now, we have been running 24/7. When we built the plant was 24/5. Maybe in 10 years, we'll have the sales to support 24/7. We were able to build up to that fairly quickly, and we've been very lucky to maintain that. We supply nationwide. We ship, I have 3 containers on the water to New Zealand right now. So we go halfway across the world with that product. And kind of the theme of this is when we started this process, we have a sister location in Wisconsin called Strauss. They make the finished milk replacer. Everyone nationwide in the dairy industry knows who Strauss Feeds is. 5 years ago, veal feed, very specialized, much smaller market. Now the entire dairy industry in the United States knows Strauss Dairy Ingredients and knows the products made here in North Manchester. And I just want to thank the community for its, what I'm going to call relentless support of us. We have incredible employees, many of whom were all new additions for this new plant. And I'm just thankful for the community and the support you've had so far. Any questions?
Any questions?
I know I've worked with Alex a lot on some tweaks when the system was going, so appreciate your back and forth and productive conversations. And wonder if you brought any samples tonight for the council.
I did not. I should have arranged good with that.
It's not like different dots or something. Nothing like that.
Just remember that for next year.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much.
And last but not least, MPS.
Hi, everyone. Thanks. Thank you to the council for having us tonight. I'm here with MPS Egg Farms to talk about the abatement that you granted us in 2018. MPS Egg Farms is a family-owned and operated business that's been here since 1969, and our family's roots go back to 1875. Here in North Manchester, we got started with a water-powered grain mill. we've been going since. Strauss Dairy Ingredients is also one of our family businesses. Alex is a member of that family. We're really excited to be part of North Manchester. Today, MPS is about the 6th largest egg producer in the country. We have 13 million hens that produce eggs for us on our farms every day, and about 700 employees that take care of those hens. About 400 of those are here in Wabash County. 3 of our largest farms are right outside North Manchester. And we've grown over the years. We made acquisitions in Texas and Georgia, and now we're in 4 states, Texas, Georgia, Indiana, and Illinois. We look forward to growing here. In 2018, we sought to move our headquarters from Mentone, where it had been for a long time. That was our hatchery when we were partnered with the Manwaring family, and that sort of drove the business and became the headquarters. We outgrew that building and wanted to move here to be closer to our farms and in the town that we consider home. And North Manchester helped us do that by granting a tax abatement and also by working through some complicated annexing and rezoning next to the river. And that's worked out very nicely. We moved in December of 2019, and it's a wonderful place to work with regular views of bald eagles and white-tailed deer and turkeys. It's wonderful. We have about 33 people that work out of that office today. That's more than the 27 we estimated when we asked for the abatement. We've added several positions there. We've added a couple people to our HR staff recently, 4 to accounting, and a couple of service roles. And we've got more room for more people to work out of that office. That's most of it. We really appreciate the town. Forward to being here for many more years. I'm happy to entertain any questions.
Any questions for Dan?
Thank you, Dan. Price of eggs.
Sorry.
Can't get out of the meeting and not talk about the price of eggs.
I would have been surprised if that didn't come out.
Yeah.
You want a sample too.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that'd be a bribe.
We'd have to send you a 1099.
Yeah, right. But eggs are hard to get. So that was just a joke. So I would appreciate you coming in.
Yeah.
Appreciate everything you do for.
Thank you. I appreciate the community very much.
Thank you,
everybody.
Dan. Unless there's objection, we'll entertain a motion to approve all the requests at the same time.
Move approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the annual tax abatement certifications that we've heard. Any discussion?
Yeah, at the end of the day, right, no matter what, it comes down to business and municipality or partners, right? It's a partnership at various levels. And these are some of our strongest partners. And one of the things that I think is pretty cool about this is we've got, even just within this little group tonight, we've got some that have been here for centuries, some for decades, and some that are new. And everyone's pulling the same way on the same boat. And it's just wonderful to see.
We're very appreciative of the businesses here in town and the success that they have exhibited. Any other discussion?
Just to let everyone know, once these are signed, these will be available tomorrow at Town Hall if you want to pick them up. After that, on Friday, I'll take them down to Wabash and deliver them, and then they'll be put with the rest of your forms in Wabash.
But I hope approval, I'll bring some instruments the next time.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Thank you. Next, wastewater bond ordinances, general ordinance number 2 and number 3 for first reading, Gary.
I'm gonna let Adam take this.
As soon as she finds them.
Well, these instruments are 60 and 20 pages long together, and are you gonna start the conversation?
I can, as they're preparing. So, to get to this point for the sewer bonds, obviously the town leadership knows that we want the town to be here for a long time, and we're going to have residents here. So water and wastewater systems are very important in the community. Our original treatment plants are both water and wastewater. Now we're going to get to the sewer, but but back in the sixties when they were initially established here. So a lot of the infrastructure has been on the ground a long time. A lot of our collection system has been some 80-year water mains. Sewers probably date back to that as well. They don't regenerate themselves. So we have to make sure that we have plans in place to improve those and continue to provide the service to the community. And before I kind of let Jeremy talk a little bit about it, I kind of wrote up again how we got it. I look back and we started back in 2008, and I'll kind of get to the long-term control plan. But as far as planning for this point, since 2021, we've did a lot of due diligence. We're not jumping at this without looking and turning over every rock and option that we have to make sure what we do is correct. We have engineers looking at this to make sure we're not overspending, but we're doing the right dollars for the community, and hopefully set ourselves in a good position for the next 30, 40 years that we know that we're in good hands. We're going to be compliant, and we're going to keep item from calling us up and saying something's wrong. So I'll read this and I'll kind of let Jeremy talk about it. So started back in 2008, like many communities across the state and country, there was an active compliance issue that EPA was going for when it comes to combined sewer overflows within a community. Those unfamiliar with that, it's basically when it does rain, there's too much rain and sewage in our current pipes. There's relief valves that just dump that right to the Eel River. Over the years, we got smart, know that that's not the solution. Dilution is not the solution. It's still poop in the water. So at that point, EPA wanted to have all communities, and we're one of many. I don't know if you know how many. I mean, it's several, maybe 1,800 or more. I don't know. I just know a lot had to do it across the state and country. So at that time in 2008, we had to sign a court-ordered agreed order to take steps and projects to get to the point of compliance to meet what they felt was good water quality for people that use the river, which we have a lot of use of the Eel River if you're a kayaker or canoer. To do that, they did thankfully gave us 20 years. Some communities only had 10, some had, I don't know if there's some that had less than that, but we were fortunate enough to get a 20-year compliance plan. If anybody remembers 2008, the 20 years has went by fast, and here we are about 3 years from the initial final compliance that we must be, that we signed, that we would have done. We had 10 projects identified at that point. We have completed 8, but the last 9 and 10 are kind of the final ones. That one is at the plant, which we're going to kind of address through this ordinance and projects, and the other one's on the collection system. So as we've made those improvements over the years, we've learned a lot about the system and how things designed, and then we kind of came back and kind of reevaluate everything, knowing now we have good data. So kind of read some of this. Started preparing for Project 9 in 2021 and lining up financing options with the town engineers at the time. The town created a PER, which is a preliminary engineering report for Project 9 in 2001, and submitted that to the Indiana Finance Authority for what we call a SWIFT grant, State Water Infrastructure Fund grant, which was funded from the COVID dollars, federal COVID dollars. As you can imagine, $100 million, and a lot of communities seeing that as an opportunity. It was high demand. When we went and submitted our application, we did not score well enough because they said our rates are too low compared to what other communities have that submitted. So they said they were going to give those to the most need that had the higher rates. We turned our attention towards securing an SRF funding in 2022. So state revolving fund, it's a way for the state to help give low interest loans for projects like this in the community, which is beneficial because on the market, you'd probably have a higher interest rate. So this is a program that they have with federal dollars funneling down to the state and distributed. But the state's kind of responsible of how those dollars are funding is given out and who qualifies and so forth. So we submitted that in 2022 for the long-term control plan projects coming up and treatment plan improvements. The SRF required the creation of an asset management plan, which is a good exercise because it got to where communities were not taking care of their assets. They just kind of let it ride for a long time because it was new 20, 30 years ago. Things weren't going to break, but there's no planning in place to make the improvements when the life expectancy was done. So for you to qualify with the state, they said you have to create an asset management plan. They started holding communities accountable to say you have to keep up on your assets. You just can't let them go and then walk away from the table because you failed your community. So the town created this asset management plan as required by SRF. We applied for funding, but did not score high enough at that time to qualify for the traditional funding pool, as many other communities are trying to apply as well. Basically, due to current rates, our rates were too low compared to what others that applied in the project. So we were not impacting our ratepayers enough. So we did not score enough. There's other options that we could go to the pool funding, which is higher interest rates, kind of other states pulling their extra dollars together, and kind of open market funding. But at that time, we weren't satisfied with that being the best option. So we went to kind of the next one. So after creating the asset management plan, many more deficiencies in the age of current equipment was determined to be past its useful life. We are planning to have an open house for the community to come down to the wastewater treatment plant. Up until I started working down there, I didn't even know where it was at in town. So, and I'm sure I asked probably majority of the residents in town, they probably wouldn't know where the wastewater treatment plant is. They probably know where the water plant is, but not where the wastewater treatment plant is. So we're gonna open the gates and let people see what we currently have. But that serves an important environmental job to do for the Eel River that we enjoy. So in 2023, the town hired Commonwealth, who has a good reputation for funding through the U.S. Department of Ag, through the Rural Development Program, to broaden the look at the treatment plant operations and the capacity to determine 3 alternatives. So they required us to get funding through them to look at 3 different options, not just we're going for this one, the Cadillac works, we're going. We have to provide 3 different options to see what's best for the community and what's most feasible financially. So they created what's required, a preliminary engineering report for the RD application. And I know Jeremy and his team is very good at that, but that was very encumbering application. But the reason for why we did that is important. RD, Rural Development, offered longer terms for the loan. Some of the SRF is 20, 25. RD will go up to 40. So yes, it does extend the life of the term, but we're again trying to look at how it's going to impact the residents and businesses that are our customers. So that was enticing. And additionally, they had possibly a little bit lower interest rates. So we're still kind of waiting on that until we set that up. But they had some favorable things versus SRF. In addition to the possibility of a grant. So that was one thing, is depending on how we scored and they looked at that, we could have grant dollars where the SRF was less grant dollars, but we're looking for other ways that we don't have to repay that back. Okay, so then we also did a hydraulic study. We had 8 projects done. We wanted to reevaluate before we start putting plans together. Are we putting the money and the right plans from 2008? Does it still apply to the projects we have to do now? So we had Commonwealth, and their recommendation was to do a hydraulic study to see, are we building what we need? Are we overbuilding? Are we underbuilding? Thankfully, from the results, we found out that we were not going to have enough capacity to handle the stormwater, and we were going to be in non-compliance if we followed the 2008 plan. So with that, we had to go back to the drawing board and add some additional storage and projects that will help make sure that we are in compliance as we said we were. So that was an important piece to look at for the town, which did increase the cost of what we anticipated. So we did that. Each side determined if the previous 8 long-term control plan matched the model shown back in 2008. Obviously, it said it's undersized for project 9. When applying for the RD application, the town leadership decided to make major improvements that were identified in the asset management plan. That called for replacing a lot of the equipment, as I mentioned, that has been in the work since 1998. So the plant was built in 65. So a lot of the concrete, most all the concrete tanks are still the same tanks that built in 65. We determined that a lot of the equipment within those tanks that make them work have been in use since 1998. And there really has not been, and I can attest because I've worked down there for many years, nothing's really changed much down there. There's some phosphorus addition, some other chain links to replace head works that we added a screen. But everything's been going since 98, and in the condition that it is, in a sewage condition, you know, things are not, it's not like working with clean water, so things deteriorate. Again, looking long-term, we know that we need to replace these, 27 years in the works, and that is a 24/7, 365 operation. It does not stop. So we need to make sure that these are ready to go again for another 25, 30 or more years. In 2024, the town applied for SRF funding and the USDA RD funding to check what the best funding option would be. The town scored well in the SRF application and was offered, and then was also offered an RD loan, kind of last minute by RD, March of 2025. So as we looked at our options, we thought the RD, and if you look back at, I think it's the March meeting, we had agreed to go with the RD and sign that agreement to use that as funding. In both instances, no grant funds were offered. Currently, as the town's current sewer rates were considered by both agencies as too low to get grants. So they understand where we're at. We've been able to keep rates low, but unfortunately, they're not able to give us grants due to the present level. Only low interest loan options and extended terms, 30 to 40 years, were given. A few months ago, the town accepted the RD offer of about $28 million to make the treatment plant improvements and long-term control plan number 10 improvements at the plant, with some of project 9. Commonwealth is communicated with IDEM currently to see if we can extend project 10 for additional 3 years, since we did do the study and we found out that additional work needs to be done. So there's a later agreement that we're going to have Baker Tilly look at doing, but we're trying to extend at least that end date 3 years on one project. So that way, hopefully we can kind of lessen the burden of that initial tax or the sewer rate going up as much for a few years. And then we'll see what happens there. As of right now, we're going to pass 2, or at least consider 2 ordinances. And I'll kind of let Dennis talk about the ordinances and why we're doing 2. It's kind of as we have to put them in place. If IDEM does not give us the 3-year extension that maybe we'll hear by July, we need to kind of go back to plan A, and we have to meet that 2028 deadline. If we can extend some of those multi-million-dollar project on the other one, we can then hopefully hold that off for a few years. Not really wait much. We're still in planning, but at least incur that debt. So I've spoken enough now. So Dennis, did you want to talk about, I guess, the initial bond itself and the steps and what they're about to consider?
Or you want me to fill in the project? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, fill it in.
Yep. Sorry.
So we got.
No, let you talk about the finance
You
piece.
can stand back there.
Okay, that's
Well, I wasn't prepared for that. Like, what do you want to know?
right.
So just to fill in the gap, so segue the projects we're trying to get an extension on. That's the reason for the 2 separate bonds there. So it's written such that SRF is still included in the mix because we did apply to SRF as a backup plan if IDEM does not give that 3-year extension. So that backup plan is in place, and the backup plan is before you deny as well. You laid it out pretty well there, so there's not much for me to say except for it definitely grew, but last minute with RD, they came through in March to provide letter conditions. So there's a max percentage for a loan, 40-year term. This helps set the groundwork to get to the point of construction. And then there'll be another series of cases where Dennis will have to get involved as well. So our goal will be to get it to that point rather quickly and stay on in line with the client's schedule itself. So while this is occurring, we're also coordinating with IDEM to ask for that extension, which
we're just kind of laying the groundwork and saying, hey, expect a few things from us. This is ultimately what we're asking for in an abbreviated version. So July, August, somewhere around there is when we hope to know. Then at the same time, we hear from SRF to know, do we need an answer SRF call or not? So the fortunate piece is this is kind of all packaged together as it went to SRF, so it should help score well. So then if by chance we have to just move forward, we're in a better position. So with that, I'll turn that over to Dennis to talk about the actual financing piece. And then I can fill in the gaps.
One more treatment thing. One thing we did find as well, and talking about the business that we have, we know that as far as business growth, if some business has a strength of waste that would be more than what's normal residential waste, we do not have treatment capacity to handle that. So we know that we're up against the wall as far as expansion. We're fine residentially, but if we want to add any more commercial, we would be very limited on what we could offer. And we found that a lot with some of our leads, project leads that we've had with Girl Oaks County. So we're going to increase that capacity of treatment with the project that we have in the plan. So that's anticipation of growth and not want to limit ourselves on trying to grow business and the community.
Ready. Good evening, everyone. And aside on the Bose McKinney Evans Bond Council, you've probably seen Brenda up here a time or two before. It's good to see you all again and be back in the town. You need to hear about the tax abatement projects too. I feel like I'm on a ratings call. I'm showing off that, you know, how great things are going on in the town. Adam, you really kind of summed it up. I'll get into a little bit of the details here on the ordinance and then happy to answer questions for you. You have two bond ordinances before you tonight. Adam mentioned, and Jeremy did, SRF program, rural development. A lot of times, you know, we'll do one sewer bond ordinance. But rural development is unique in their covenants and provisions, and the SRF is too. So it's kind of like oil and vinegar. We don't really mix them together. If we could theoretically draft it, what if I sent that off to rural development that, you know, their heads might spin. So we don't do that. We have one bond ordinance for the rural development component. Here in front of you, it's the one that's not as thick. And Carrie, I brought Carrie a stack, so if anyone wants some late evening reading or to take home, she's got copies. But they're very similar. Not to exceed amount of $37,161,000 on the rural development bonds. We don't expect that to be the amount. We always put not to exceed parameters in there. And you've probably heard this before on some of your other projects, so we don't have to come back to you every time there's a change. You'll be aware of what the amounts are, but there's contingency built in there. You'll be on the parity with your outstanding 2013 bonds, 40-year term, as Adam mentioned, which is standard rural development. And I will say, just in my experience, I've been doing this a while. You know, SRF and rural development they're the best type of financing vehicle for a community your size. You're going to get, you know, the lowest interest rates, longest terms, best provisions. You could try to go out on the open market with the financing. You're probably not going to get as low an interest rate. It's going to cost you more money to do that, and there's just some added features to it. It's nice to have one lender. I always, in my years, I like having one bondholder I can go to if we need to talk about something that comes up. Not that we expect it, but these will be tax exempt, so we have tax exempt provisions in there. Sources and uses, the revenues come in, kind of a waterfall of funds. These bonds are payable from the revenues of the utility after operating and maintenance expenses. So the funds come in, fund your operating and maintenance account. They go to a sinking fund to fund debt service and fund up our reserve fund. RD's got a little bit different reserve requirement than SRF, and so that's one of the differences in the ordinances. And then at the basement, there's the improvement fund. We call it, that's the catch-all then for capital improvements. And then there's standard covenants that you're going to maintain insurance on the system. You're going to properly bid your project. You're going to maintain this in a safe and reliable manner. We have a rate covenant in there that says you're going to maintain your rates and charges always in an amount sufficient to cover the debt service and operating and maintenance expenses. And there's what we call an additional bonds provision. And these are different too for rural development and SRF. But basically, before you go issue a series of bonds, you need Baker Tilly or whoever your CPA happens to be at the time to provide a certification that your rates and charges are sufficient to cover the debt service on your outstanding bonds, plus your new bonds, and then some. So 1.25 is the SRF requirement, coverage ratio 1.2 for rural development. So the rural development ordinance, the SRF ordinance is a little thicker, you might notice. That's because this has been reviewed by the SRF Program Council, who actually happens to be one of my law partners. So we represent the program, which is nice. There's some efficiencies there. So we also do some work for rural development too. So we know a lot about the sewer business. But their agreement is attached. It's basically kind of the purchase agreement that you would have with SRF Public Financial Assistance Agreement. I think, Jeremy, you've mentioned it, and Adam, it may be that you don't have to issue SRF bonds down the road, but by doing these both at the same time, you're going to set the table to have your funding mechanism put in place. Timing-wise, introduced tonight, adopted next month's council meeting. We'll have a notice to be advertised, and we'll work with Carrie and Matt to get that to you all, but it publishes and kind of triggers a 20-day objecting period. I will tell you, like, legally, a lot of these projects can't be objected to because they're part of your long-term control plan, but we want to do the notice anyway. It's sort of just an open book, the best practices, and full disclosure of them. We also have a timetable, and Carrie's got copies of this, to do some bond anticipation notes. And you may recall we did this a couple months ago with the waterworks. So same kind of process. We'll go out with Baker Tilly, issue the bands. I'm not quite sure yet of the size. I think we're still waiting to see those numbers. Maybe you've seen it on the dollar amount, but it'll provide funding, so cover preliminary expenses, design, engineering costs, and the like. With the rural development, the way they work just a little more here also. They have an interesting program where they actually won't issue your rural development bonds until after your project is completed. And so what they'll do is probably next year, we will go to the Indiana Bond Bank and issue a large bond anticipation note. They have a program that's partnered with the rural development program where the bond bank funds these bond anticipation notes. And the way they do that is funding from the state of Indiana surplus. So the treasurer of Indiana buys the bond bank notes, which funds the purchase of these rural development program notes. We'll do that when the project's completed. That's when we'll take those out with bonds that'll be issued by the town directly to rural development. So that's kind of a long story there. I'll stop and see if there's any questions or any comments anyone has.
So with the RD funding, will the bands and essentially cover the cost of construction?
Yeah, Carrie, we'll do two, and I'll tell you a little history behind this. This first band is going to cover design costs. We'll come back, let's say sometime mid next year when design comes in, the project gets bid, then we're going to need all the money to fund the project. We'll apply to the bond bank for that funding. It will take out this bond anticipation note. We'll kind of get this one knocked out of the way, and that'll provide the funding for the project. Now, I'll tell you, I've been doing this about 25 years, and about 10 years ago, rural development sort of started to push on a regulation. There's an old regulation that rural development has that says we don't want to provide our funding until the project's completed. So we want you to have interim financing. They don't want to be in the kind of the construction financing. And that rule was always on the books, but it was never enforced in Indiana. It was in other states, but just not in Indiana. So we were just doing rural development bonds, and then someone woke up and said, no, you need to do these bands. That's how the bond bank got involved with the program and started doing bands. And so now it's compliant with that regulation. It's kind of an added layer, but it's just one of the things that you have with rural development funding.
I'd just like to say that when Adam mentioned 2008, that's when my wife and I moved here. We found a house. We were looking to come into this area, and if you recall, in 08 is when the recession was going on and the housing prices had crashed. We felt like we got a pretty good deal. And I feel like, so that's what, almost 17 years ago, which seems like, when you're younger, that seems like a long time, but the older I get, the shorter period of time that seems. And so, between that and then it seemed like it took a long time to recover from 08. And so about the time I think we're hitting full recovery and things, then COVID. And then, and so even since we've been talking about this project now, I mean, things are just constantly changing. And we feel like we're working with good people. We feel like we're working with Commonwealth and who they advise us to try to do the best for the community and try to do the best for our employees who have to work in, again, some of these facilities were, before seatbelts were mandated in cars. I mean, so there's safety issues we run into. So, and I think we do our best to overcome all of them. But even now, I mean, in the midst of all this, with the possibility of tariffs or not tariffs or whatever, it's very difficult. But I think all we can do is put our nose through the grindstone and try to move forward and try to do it the best we can. And I really will say this group of people, I feel, are really trying to do the best we can with what we have. And especially with that newer news about economic expansion as far as possibility of commercial, supporting commercial properties. This is something we just have to do it. And I don't, but we're trying to do it the best we can. And we appreciate all that.
Here, here.
I'll mention one thing. I do remember the economic development collapse like it was yesterday. It's one of those things sort of burned in my brain, and it has been a long time. Interest rates now, they're higher, I think we all know, than they were, even just 2 or 3 years ago. And we had historically low rates, and in the bond business, we kind of survived off of refinancings during that vintage of 2008 to 2018 or 19 before projects started. There was a lot of refinancings projects before then to get them extremely low interest rates. So what I'll say here is, potential 20 to 35 year term of SRF, potential 40-year term of rural development. The town will have the ability to refinance these bonds down the road. And so your advisors are going to be looking out at that. And so we're always keeping in mind those savings opportunities for you. So hopefully we don't go to the 2008 again, but hopefully we see rates come down and are able to take advantage of some of that and give some money to the town.
I will say, I'm one of the few around this table that was here when the superintendent of public works, the great Don Muckford, told us that we had all these mandates to do. And I think collectively our jaws hit the floor that we had to do all these projects and how much it was going to cost. And I am like so proud of all of our department heads and our people, because we didn't stop. We kept plugging away. We're getting near the finish line. But when we started in 2017, it was just, or 2008, it was unbelievable the mountain that we were looking at that we had to do. So yay for us for diving in and getting done what we've got done.
Unfunded mandate.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, that was Mugman's favorite term, or least favorite term. Everybody look at it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis.
I don't think you can read the whole thing.
Carrie's got to read the whole ordinance.
Verbatim.
Anyone who wants to read the ordinance themselves, we have copies here for you to come and get if you want to. I'll entertain a motion to approve wastewater bond ordinances, general ordinance number 2 and number 3 on first reading.
No approval?
Second. Moved and seconded to approve the ordinance, general ordinances number 2 and general ordinance number 3 on first reading. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Thank you. Next, Baker Tilly contract for financial capabilities analysis. Adam?
It's a prelude that I mentioned about, we're trying to get a 3-year extension for, our final project. I just found some more information more information that we need to add to our plan of being compliance. What I then would like to see is the supporting data is the financial capabilities analysis on how we're able to pay for that and does the costs incurred merit additional time for the community to plan for that and implement that. So Baker Tilly has a not to exceed $10,000 fee to provide this, create it and provide it for that time. I think they're maybe about a month to do that work, and then they'll get that up to Jeremy and we'll let item kind of review that over. So I'd recommend that we continue to help the process and hopefully get a 3-year extension with this information.
Move approval?
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the contract with Baker Tilly for financial capabilities analysis. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Thank you. Surplus equipment bid opening. Gary, you want to explain that?
So we have 2 town vehicles that are no longer in need. We have a 2015 Chevy Impala, which was one of our former police cars and then was used by our building commissioner, and a 2012 Chevy Colorado, which was purchased for the water department for meter readings. We had 4 bids received, 2 for each vehicle. You want to open them?
Bid is Matt.
Oh, give them that. There you go.
He's up the knife.
And
Math the knife.
Alright, bid number 1 for the town. Drum roll please. $1,021 is the first one for the Impala. The second one is $675. So the 1,021 is the higher bid for the car. For the truck. Fourth bid is $2,575. And $1,500. So there, the 2535 is the highest.
okay. So we will have a bill of sale ready and sell those cars as is to the winning bids and get all of them.
Thank you. We don't need a motion.
No.
The item that we added to our agenda, the Manchester Live request to close Main Street.
So might have the to come up to the podium and talk about those requests, and nothing to surprise because we've been doing car shows and festivals, so.
I have a
give
few
us the dates.
surprises, though. I have a
Oh, a
few.
few surprises, okay.
Nothing as exciting as wastewater or tax abatements, but some surprises nonetheless. I'm Heather Cruz, Executive Director of Manchester Live. Sabrina Klein is over here. She's the committee lead for Alive by the River, formerly known as Second Fridays and More. We have learned that Second Fridays and More got very confusing when it wasn't on a second Friday. So we have rebranded and we're gonna stick with this one. This will be Alive by the River. It also will play into the vision I see of when the river is developed and Hill River Commons and all the things, the river will play a really active role. Some people think, what are you talking about? But we see the dream and the vision. So we're gonna stick with Alive by the River for now. So with that rebranding, we took an opportunity to add 9 events to the year. Why not?
No, we added 7 more. So
7.
6 we already
We have
had.
13 total.
13 total.
It'll be a busy season. So, I gave you a packet there. All of them are there except for 2. We're also partnering with the Diversity Coalition for Hispanic Heritage Festival again, second Friday of September. And then we're partnering with a bunch of local businesses for a community cookout on June 7th at Oven's Landing. So that'd be an exciting use of Oven's Landing. So that's coming up on June 7th, mark your calendars. The only real surprise is that we're also having the Historic Preservation and Design Awards ceremony with a covered bridge event on May 28th, at the same time as our first At the Landing event. And county commissioners have given us permission to close the covered bridge for that event. We'll be holding it on the bridge. So I just want to make you aware that it won't involve any street closures other than they can't cross the bridge for 2 hours. So we did get all that paperwork signed and taken care of. The committee handled that, but I wanted to make the council aware that that's something that we're doing. That same night, people will be able to walk back and forth to an At the Landing event, which is just local music, local food vendors, just low key. We want to have a chance for places like Rotary Kiwanis, local food, some that get kind of wiped out by the food trucks that we bring in at the bigger events to have a chance to have their fundraising opportunities. So that's what those are for. I can answer most of the questions you have about road closures, but they look a lot the same. June is the car show. We've been doing that road closure for a long time, well before I was here. And then Market Street will be July. We're back on Main for wrestling on August. And then September moves to Warble Park. That's where the Hispanic Heritage Festival is. So there will be no, there's small road closure for food trucks on Market Street there between 9th and 7th. Other than that, it looks a lot the same as most years. We want to come and ask the approval of the town council for those road closures and to sign the hold harmless agreement that is required.
The hold harmless agreement basically states in that as we reroute traffic up Wayne Street, that we will not hold NDOT liable for any damages to our streets. It's a practice that we've been doing. So we say we will forego any type of liability on that. We've not had any issues in the past, and we've since rebuilt Wayne Street. So I've never saw anything negative resulting from that. So just to confirm the dates of June 13th for the car show. And August 8th for the wrestling. So that will be when the street be closed.
And we did initially, we talked to NDOT a lot, a whole lot, and then we had to talk about other, anyway, it's been a fun game. But they are not planning to have the bridge closed at that time. We confirmed it with them that because we were afraid we're going to have to, I mean, we went through we had the county commissioners and everybody, we're going to reroute all the way around town. And then we went to a meeting that was canceled and found out that we didn't have to do that. So we did extra work to end up at the same place. It was awesome. It was great.
We want to make sure.
We want to make sure. Yeah, because the bridge closure, we couldn't have people trying to go up Mill Street and semis and whatnot, right? So we wanted to make sure we were covering our bases. Next year, it might be a thing. We'll see what happens next year. We have all the back work and groundwork done. If it happens next year, we're ready to go. Any questions?
Entertain a motion.
Second.
Seconded to approve the Manchester Live request to close Main Street on 2 occasions. Friday,
June 13th
and Friday, August 8th. Really appreciate the work that has gone into this and appreciate the expansion and the use of the pavilion, the new pavilion.
I'll say today that we're very excited to include Eel River Commons, but check back after this season. After we got it.
Oh, no. We have plans already. I'm already
We're ready to go.
pretty soon.
Is that surprise? We know.
No. And I just follow along. Whatever, know what we're doing.
Any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have
Thank
a
you,
great
Sabrina.
evening.
Moving on to departmental and commission reports. Police Department, Chief.
Yes, again, another busy month, as you can see, for the calls of service. There's a few things I'd like to point out. Roger Morrow and Ryan Skeen started their journey at ILEA this Monday, so they're completing their first week tomorrow with projected graduation from ILEA in mid-August. Kyle Calhoun and Maureen Zinn have resigned from their full-time positions in MPD to better themselves at other opportunities they have come up. We are having interviews this week for the position of the records clerk. This past Saturday, we tested for the vacant position of the officer's positions, and we'll keep up doing interviews and background checks this month, hopefully hiring somebody in June. And then I'd like to point out that officers Griffin Miller and Ryan Skeens, they made a traffic stop. They helped recover a stolen motorcycle out of Allen County. They even apprehended the subject after a short foot pursuit. How about that? I know that this is out there.
Any questions for Nate? Thank you, Nate. Steve?
The only thing that's real pressing is we haven't received our second draft of the truck specs. The list is getting shorter, but we are going through them. And also we will be looking at other apparatus manufacturers. See if they can provide the options that we want.
Any questions for Cam? Thank you, Cam. Dave?
We will be having a BZA meeting in May. After I sent out the save the date notice to the members that the meeting would be Monday, May 26th, I was quickly reminded that that was Memorial Day. BZA meeting will be on Tuesday, the 27th.
Any questions for Dave?
I can't believe they weren't more dedicated to the cause. It was just a holiday.
Jennifer?
I have ordered the new sign for Holderman Park, and I'm anticipating that that will be in the end of this month or first of June. And in the meantime, the American Legion is doing a fundraiser online through June 14th, and they are trying to raise $25,000 for a matching grant. That will go to pay for the statue that they want to put in, and also they're going to have flagpoles, one for each branch of the military. So they're going to add those in between the stones that are already there. So that'll look a little bit different. And if you've driven by you've seen that some of the bushes have been removed, and then there was a trades group from Columbia City High School that came and helped with the concrete. So there is a concrete pad there now for the statue. And May 16th will be the last day for the senior meals at the Town Life Center, at Scout Hall. They said that due to declining numbers, they're going to discontinue those meals. So May 16th will be the last day for the senior meals. And the flowers should be out downtown early next week. And if you want Town Life Center update, I now have 2 suites open. We have office space available, 2 different suites.
Any questions for Jennifer? Thank you, Jennifer. Adam, RDC?
We are going to have a meeting here next week. This is an annual opportunity for local taxing units to be able to, I guess, talk to the RDC about passing through assessed value for 2026 versus retaining that for TIP and the projects that we do. So that's kind of the main meeting and purpose for next week's
annual exercise.
Yep.
Great.
Spring cleanup was a smashing success this year. Last year we had 47 tons. This year we had 85 tons. Wow. Which means the 4 of us, we each loaded 10,000 pounds a day. I am not built for that. So next year we're getting Nate.
I thought I saw more stuff out than normal.
Yeah, a lot of wood this year for some reason. So
interesting. Yeah. Ryan.
Just a quick update on the bridge project, as far as the water stuff goes. They've inserted a 6, a 10, and a 12-inch valve line so that we can hopefully minimize the shutdown when they go to run some water main across the road here soon. They started fusing pipe together today, and they're hoping to start boring tomorrow under the river for a new water main. And tentatively, it sounds like they're shooting towards the end of next week. They're going to have the highway closed a couple days while they hook and unhook.
This is making the assumption that their board moves well, which they seem to have not super optimistic outlook on that. So outside of that, there's just been a lot of background trying to make sure on our meter project that we're getting ready to do, there's just going to be an absolute ton of data transition when they start changing all these meters. And we've been trying to hash out what that's going to look like when that happens so that our system up at the office is populated correctly. And then we actually have a pretty robust GIS system now. But a lot of that data needs to be updated because everything we did last year is now going to be changed out. So hopefully it will be a smooth transition.
Fingers crossed.
Yes, and toes too.
Any questions for Brian?
Seeing your report that it can't come soon enough with our current system of reading is failing as we speak.
Yeah, the guys actually today are handheld. We're actually on a borrowed handheld that, because our last one basically froze up and we can't accept readings anymore. The one we have now, the guys just kept having to turn it off and on today, and they lost readings and had to go back and reread a couple hundred readings today, which, I mean, we were planning on doing other things and they spent most of the day rereading areas. So yeah, it can't come soon enough. So
That's the way with most of those kinds of projects. By the time you get right to it, then you're really anxious to get it done.
we can see the light.
Yeah, good. Town manager's report.
I wanted to point out on kind of Jennifer, the parks, the pickleball, right now they're under just for a 30-day patronicity matching grant campaign. It's actually the pickleball, I don't know if call it committee, but Tim McLaughlin is the one that's kind of headed that up. And so they're kind of the last push. I think this should get them to where they could build courts possibly in June, but they do need to get to that $50,000 amount to get another 50 from the patronicity through the state. So if you want to participate, help out any amounts worthy, $10, $20, whatever, to help reach that goal to hopefully build a pickleball facility. Community crossings, they started doing their sidewalk concrete work on West 4th Street. So if you go that direction, that's what's happening. I've had a couple other residents seeing the work done and they're saying, I think I know my sidewalk's not included in the project, but I want it done now. So that's encouraging that residents are wanting to improve their properties, why they see an opportunity there, and hopefully God can help them out. I was talking about the bridge projects, where that was one that's been talked about 4 years ago when we started the planning process, and we're here and we're excited about that improvements. And so the main thing is, I think they're planning on shutting the State Road 114 bridge down, or at least to one lane, late August, early September, but they're still trying to relocate the water and the sewer and the electric and the communication. So that's all that commotion around the State Road 114 bridge. Hopefully here in about 2 months, we'll have our water and sewer done, and then we can just sit back and see the rest happen. Yeah, relax, kick the feet up. That's right. And the county bridge on South Market, that's still scheduled to close maybe October to September, October, November at the earliest. They're saying that could be 5 to 8 months closure. So we're going to plan for worst. If there's no traffic, we are allowed to do that on South Market. So that'll be some coordination with some services like trash and recycling and the school buses. And so a lot of communication with them. And even when we hear information on the State Road 114 bridge closures, I'm working with Randy Self in the school and making sure they know what's closed and what's open. So a lot of project management stuff going on. The utilities, we sent out, Commonwealth sent out right of entry access letters last week, and we've been receiving a lot of those daily. Those basically are residents get to opt in to allow the project to replace their water service into the house, because they've been identified as either light or lead service and or galvanized old. And so by EPA mandates, we've been talking about mandates, we have to replace those once we disrupt that service. So residents are signing these forms to opt in, so we know that we can start the process of having acquisition on their property to put those services in. They can opt out, But then there's some other parameters that they'll have to, we'll have to provide, I think, a lead filter on the drinking water side. They also then will have to have a database that will say their house has potential lead from the service. They have to disclose that at sales in the future. So there's a lot of things that benefits them to have their service replaced at this time, but that option to refuse is still there. Water meters, I believe, are ordered, and as Ryan said, a lot of coordination on getting those switched over. I know, again, seeing the light, it sounds good when we have all the meters replaced, right, Ryan? And in your packet, you also have Commonwealth's monthly status of all the projects they're doing. So that was, thanks to Jeremy for providing that. And then last thing is we attended a legislative update today at Wabash County, where Senator Zay and State Representative Larissa Sweet were there, had a full room, and they talked about all of that got unpacked for the most part down at the last legislative session. One of the busiest probably in history, but Senate Bill 1 with obviously funding of property tax relief and the property tax entities, still kind of unpacking that camper and seeing what's that unfolding. But in the meantime, we're kind of just letting things the dust settle, and I think we'll be okay. And there's some options. So just trusting Carrie that she's cool, calm, and collective. And so we're all going to just trust her that she's
No pressure.
fine, no pressure. So, and that's all I've got.
Any questions for Adam?
Was there a due date by that? Was there a one for the letter responding if you want to?
Was there a deadline to turn those letters in?
As soon as possible, we'll have a follow-up mailing as well.
Okay.
So I'll see what the first batch.
That'd be more aggressive, that second letter? Okay.
Okay.
But first one is, we're getting it to our office, and I know you're getting it to your office. So.
Yeah, I gotta remember to do it. I don't want to be.
Is there a projected time when the installation of the meters will start?
I don't know. Ryan has any. I know we have our first, that's all meters west of Market are to be done by the end of August. So there's already kind of a timeline there. And then everything east of Market has a deadline of December. So
based on that pre-con meeting, I would suspect some movement next month for sure. I think there's just a series of waiting for certain materials to come in and background information, what Brian's working on. That's the big key right now. And then they can start hitting the streets.
Clerk Treasurer.
Following up on what Adam had to say about legislation this year and the great unknown, the budget process still has to go on. So in your packet, there is a preliminary budget timetable. We'll start looking at numbers. I'll start putting things together now. Department heads will have June to work with me and get their numbers together. And then we need to set a time in July when we'll all meet with them. I don't have to do that now, but that's on the horizon. So the state did say that they were doing a 5% decrease in their budget. I'm not saying that we need to do that in ours, but we are in a great unknown right now in the budget. Beyond that, we have two dockets tonight, a town docket of $787,270.97 and a utility docket of $501,356.32.
Move we pay our bills.
Second.
Moved and seconded to pay our bills. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Thank you. This is our second opportunity in our agenda for any visitors to comment to council. Does anyone in the audience wish to address council at this point? Thank you. Any comments from council?
Way to be troopers and stick that whole thing out. That's crazy. I would have left a long time ago.
I just want to take a moment. We've had an interesting meeting this evening with lots of different stuff going on and lots of positive stuff going on. And I just want to, even though some of the folks that that participated and brought information to us or brought requests to us have left. Really appreciate our consultants, Mike and Dennis and Jeremy. They're doing wonderful work to get us to where we need to be with the projects. Really appreciate our department heads, Nate and Cam and Dave, Jennifer and Craig and Ryan. Appreciate Shannon too, but he's not here. And the folks, the businesses that were here this evening to bring us up to date on what's going on and get continued approval for their abatements. Ben and John and Joe, Alex and Dan, and also appreciate Heather and Sabrina being here and allowing us to participate in bringing good things to the town and bringing people and everybody around this table, especially Adam and Carrie, for all the work that goes into from this side, all the work that goes into all of those things that make North Manchester a really neat place. So thank you all. Thank you all very much. Our next regular meeting is June the 4th. We are adjourned.